Hi, I'm Ted Wolf, presented by Guidewise. Welcome to the Implementors podcast, where we connect you to the stories and insights of people who have mastered implementation. Why? Because ideas are easy, but implementation is hard. Join us as we uncover the secrets of successful implementation so you can conquer your implementation struggles. Hello and welcome to the Implementors podcast, presented by Guidewise, where we focus on the topic of implementation because we all know that ideas are easy, but implementation is hard. Today, my guest is Mario Diez from Peer39. Welcome, Mario.
Hey, Ted. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Same from me. What I'd like to start with is understand a little bit about Mario. Mario, what's the passion that gets you up in the morning?
Yeah, I think it's something that obviously we think about all the time. I tend to look, at my really early upbringing. Both my parents were teachers, and it taught me the importance of education and working with the community. And through those experiences and watching them, you get to learn what it takes to really work with people and see them be successful. My father was actually a Hall of Fame baseball coach in New Jersey, so I kind of had a double experience of looking how teaching and coaching are fundamentals in anything in life. And you don't realize these things when you're young or going through college, but when you start to get into the professional world, you start to find things that get you excited. And we can all be excited about different businesses or different products or different opportunities. But thinking about this podcast and thinking about that question a bit leading up to this, I can always point back to things that get me most excited is building teams that are successful in giving people freedoms and support. It's interesting. I came up through the sales side of the professional career, and on that side, you're working with a lot of customers and business development and helping them, solve their problems. And I was fortunate enough to ultimately become a CEO at one point. And one of the things that you learn quickly is as you move into different parts or move up in the different parts of the responsibility, you realize very quickly once you get into the CEO position that you move from a position of trying to help the company to trying to help individuals be successful.
Yeah.
And so for me, like back to your question, like it's the things that get me up in the morning, Ted, are the how do we as a company enable our employees to be successful and give them the tools and systems to be successful and to be challenged, right? And then in terms, if that happens, then any business should be able to flourish, by taking care of the employees, and which will then take care of the customers and so forth. And so that's from my side, it's like taking all of that you learn in your upbringing, and then you start to experience life in your professional side, and then you realize quickly like everything that we're building up, and that shows you your passion. Now, outside of that, I'm a nut for new technology, and so there's outside of the people and the process and that side, it's very interested in new innovations and in how technologies or just new services can help businesses and other other providers.
Yeah. Okay. So you get up in the morning, you feel some passion, you want to get in, you want to build a team, you want to help create an environment that people are successful in, and that extends into your client set. You want them to be successful because obviously they become a part of your team, if you will. Yeah. So it's a learning process to run a business. You got to develop different mindsets, develop empathy in a lot of different areas. And sometimes that involves setbacks.
Yeah.
Sometimes we make bad decisions, good intentions, but unintended consequences take over. So all of a
Yeah.
sudden you run into some type of a disappointment or a crisis within the business, and you have to identify different behaviors, but implement those behaviors. So tell me about an instance that may stand out in your experience where you ran into a crisis and things weren't working and you had to kind of put yourself and the business back together and implement new behaviors.
Yeah. This would, it happens more often than I think people realize. And
Yes,
I
it
think
does.
that's, if you were to have a lot more of these conversations, I'm not sure everybody would admit that. But it's something every leader faces, whether it's company wide or, products not working or teams not working well together or other implementation issues. One of the companies that I was running, a couple companies, before Peer39, it was a company called quadrantONE, and we were very early in some of the advertising techniques and services and products that we were bringing to market, and we had to go through some really big change at the company. And granted, it was a small company, but ultimately, we brought the solutions to market, and we deployed a number of products and solutions for it, and we thought we were like, by all measures, we thought we were on the right path. Now, ultimately, the company was not successful. You can attribute that to a lot of different things. But having, 2020 going back in hindsight and so forth, and, the team, I still keep in touch with very much. And, there were, one of the things that we talk about, Ted, with that team is, one, we were, a little early, but we all call that our most successful failure. And I know that's a kind of like a weird thing to say. And, the reason that it was successful is because we more or less had to turn the company around from a company that was stagnant. And so we had to go through some really hard implementation strategies of new areas that we needed to communicate to customers, new ways that we had to service the customers, and new staff that we had to bring on, new staff that we had to change their behaviors, and different services that we had to bring to market. And it's interesting. When I talked to that staff, there was a lot of learnings that went on about how you go from something that is consistent, and then realizing that this is not going to be consistent anymore, and we're going to have to change a different direction. So, the really interesting thing, Ted, is, a lot of the advertising techniques and the solutions that we were building are kind of common knowledge now in the digital and programmatic, technology ecosystem. And it's almost like a badge of honor that we wear among that team. And to go back to what I was talking about with respect to the passion, I look across that the team that we had, and almost all of the individuals on that team are in leadership positions in the digital advertising side. So yes, it was difficult and it was really hard at that time. But ultimately, what we learned, we were able to impact the industry in so many other different companies,
Mm-hmm.
And use a lot of those techniques to, for those individuals to be leaders in the, in their respective, new companies or new service providers. But I think, when you go into like learning and what did we learn is, the importance of culture, communication, and consistency trumps more everything else when it comes to implementation. And we all felt really good about the direction, and we saw really exceptional growth at that time. And so market conditions kind of changed things, and we ultimately realized we were a little bit early. But those fundamental implementation strategies and transitions were all something that we that we learned. Interestingly, it was my first CEO job, so that was it was an interesting one to do first.
Yeah.
But learned a ton, Ted.
Well, it's interesting as I hear you talk, you keep using the word learning over and over again. And
Yeah,
your family upbringing was teaching and learning. So that embedded that deeply in your mind. And that is obviously the first step in implementation. What did I learn? What do I change? Now, how do I get that change implemented? So let's move ahead now to Peer39. You've got I'll say a personal culture and within yourself that I want to learn. I want to constantly improve what I'm doing. That's the purpose of learning. And then I want to implement these changes. And you explained about some of the disappointments in business that you had, but you got great learning experiences from them. How's that impact Peer39 today?
The good thing about being in the digital advertising industry is that it changes rapidly,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives opportunities to companies that can learn fast and
Mm-hmm.
implement. But there's also a forgiveness to it in an odd way, to where if you make a wrong decision or you go down a path, the industry changes pretty quickly. So you have time, to write the strategy, and so forth. And one of the things that, to your question, when you get into Peer39, when you talk about learning, there's another part of being a really good implementer, right? That if you're implementing blind, it can create a lot of challenges. And I think one of the things that Peer39 does better than any other company that I've been a part of is we have this this deep curiosity of helping customers, but it's a curiosity that we're always asking what they're struggling with. Is this helping you? Is it not? What would you do different? And the curiosity part of the culture is it plays across every bit of how we implement the business, ranging from the types of questions that we interview new candidates, right? Like, we're always trying to find, like, is this person proactively curious, to how we conduct sales calls or partnership calls. This level of learning and curiosity is what drives us to build the right types of products that the market wants.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to also deploy that strategy and culture into how we engage with customers, in that we'll partner with our customers early and work with them on products and solutions that we're thinking about or that they would like to build with us. And we'll partner with them early before what we call general availability of the product. So that learning and passion and curiosity thing is built throughout the company, and it's done very well for us here, because of how fast the industry changes and how quickly the needs of businesses and customers change. That has really benefited us. And we also do a lot of work to make sure that the team and the communication paths stay really tight. And so, making sure everything from engineering to accounts to sales to business development are all working off of, really the same information set, and having, the communication structure that we're all looking at with the problems that we're trying to solve. So, that's, bringing that all the way through. It's a really big part of how we operate Peer39, and it's benefited the company tremendously across a couple. Like, one, customers will work with us more, and we're innovative, and then the employees see that we're innovating and gaining more customers, and then our product and engineering core are building new things that others aren't doing, and so those things all contribute to being a successful company. And ultimately, the CEO, that's the job, is to make sure all of those different aspects of the business function,
Right.
so that we can, capture, capture growth and capture success, right?
Yeah.
Like growth
Yeah.
comes after success, essentially,
Yeah.
Ted. But
Yeah. So
you know,
what attracted you initially to Peer39?
so Peer39 has been in business for quite some time. It was one of the first data companies in the digital media ecosystem when not to get too deep into media, but most of the media ecosystem transacts with a method that's called programmatic advertising or real-time bidding. It's essentially that advertisers are able to find advertising and bid on the inventory versus calling on specific publishers and things of that nature. A lot more intricacy. So they were one of the first companies. The company was ultimately sold and acquired by another company, and then that second company went into actually bankruptcy. And Peer39 at its heart, essentially provides the data that helps advertisers understand the environment that they're advertising on. And we can talk a little bit about that in a second. But one of the core aspects of it is that it does it in a way that's privacy compliant, and it's not collecting any data on users. And with all the changes that's happening in the industry, we saw an opportunity. So me and my partner Alex worked with private equity, and we approached the company that was in bankruptcy, and we felt that there was an opportunity to really build the company up. And the company had always been inside another organization without a specific dedicated focus, and we just felt really strongly about that the market was going where this company had a good base of product, and with right level of investment, right level of culture, we felt that we could take something that wasn't necessarily doing as well as it could be, and build it up to be an industry pillar of the company. So.
Okay, good. So let's talk a little bit about the environment of advertising today. What are some of the biggest challenges that your target market set is faced with, and what they need to do to deal with it?
Probably the biggest thing that everyone is trying to figure out and to be challenged with is the fact that the digital advertising ecosystem, right, was built and flourished based on the ability to reach the right person at the right time with the right message. And it was the promise of digital advertising. Like, we know who we're reaching. You can deliver with accuracy. You can send something to me 1-to-1, and you can measure it and have really sharp and acute measurement standards to understand the return on advertising. And that largely was based on the signals that were available in advertising, right? There's macro trends that are going on. So you have the regulatory environment, which you're seeing with GDPR and across the pond. And you're seeing in the US, you're seeing a number of states take initiatives about privacy, and that ranges from how companies are notifying users of what data is being collected, and are you okay with it? And then you have just the general consumer, Ted, is like, people are becoming more aware of what's happening with their data, and the word privacy is creeping into how they make decisions. Even companies like Apple market broadly their services as being one where they protect privacy and things of that nature. So what's happening from an advertising perspective is, like, the last 10 years have all been about, I have this wonderful world of accuracy on whether I can reach a target audience or measure it, right? And that's based on the signals, and those signals are changing. And if you look across the digital advertising environment, half of the media ecosystem doesn't use things like cookies, and so you have this onslaught of of companies trying to help develop, new and innovative signals that are privacy compliant. But the challenge is like there's a lot of fragmentation. And so if you're a large CPG marketer or automotive manufacturer and you have traditionally over the last 10 years been benefiting from, reaching new prospects, based on data and modeling and things of that nature, it's part of the digital ecosystem, that all changes. So one of the biggest challenges right now that marketers are looking at is like, how are we going to function in a world where there's less accuracy, there's less one-to-one communication, there's less consistent signal, because all these things are built on it, right? Their buying platforms are built on it. The way that they work with their publishers are built on these consistent signals. The way that they measure whether things were successful, and this impacts a lot of people in the ecosystem. The CMO has to report to the CFO what was the return on the media investment, right? And so if these things start to change, there's a lot of how are we going to function in this new world of addressability? And so that's probably some of the biggest challenges. Like the other challenges in the ecosystem is that media continues to get fragmented, right? And so you have all the different social platforms, you have connected television, that's really scaling up in terms of how consumers are watching video content and so forth. So those are really big challenges that are not easily solved because you're coming off of decades plus of technology that has really been ingrained.
So is the challenge of Peer39, how do we help a client break through all the noise, increased privacy needs, loss of signals, breakdown and fragmentation of the markets? How do we help them stand out through all the noise that's going on in that market?
Yeah, I think at its, look, advertising is pretty simple, right, Ted? It's you're trying to find new customers, right? And there's always been an effort, by a company who wants to advertise of, reaching the right person and like finding the moment where they could educate, influence, or capture attention or capture demand. And so as the traditional signals, essentially evaporate from the ecosystem, there's going to be a need for different signals. And so what our solve and our solution does for the marketplace is kind of like the reintroduction of the signals that advertisers can use to find those moments. And our technology is one where we'll work with an advertiser to help them understand really the environment of the advertising that they're delivering, and it has nothing to do with any user or audience or things of that nature. We are reading content and using advances in machine learning to understand things like sentiment and context. We're understanding the media quality of the environment. Of is there a lot of ad clutter, or is there too many ads? Where's the position of the ad? What type of content are you advertising on in connected television? And is it relevant, right? And so, as these signals that were more traditional over the last 10 years kind of, go off into the sunset, essentially, the more privacy centric signals that can help advertisers understand the relevance and I would also say suitability of the environment become increasingly more important, right? And so there's a lot of work that we do to say, as the market shifts on one side of the signals that you're using, these are the new ones that are entering into the market, and then here's some of the the advances that will help you understand the relevance and find the moments that you could potentially, capture new customers and things of that nature.
So give me an example, if you can, good success story of a client before and after using Peer39 solutions of how they can capture better capture that market with new signals and things like that?
Yeah, it's, not saying as, specific advertisers, but but generally speaking, our engagements, kind of focus on, two different paths, right? So we worked with a pharmaceutical company, and they were investing a lot into connected television, which, most everybody is, watching connected television now versus versus linear. And in connected television, it's, still fairly a new segment of the digital advertising ecosystem. And one of the challenges with connected television is the advertisers, essentially knowing where they are running, understanding the types of environments that they're running on. Are they running on, specific types of different levels of quality? Is it, user generated, or is it really, super premium? And as this was a big challenge, because they were investing a lot, and they essentially wanted to make sure that they were buying what they were buying. And so kind of like the first level of engagement that we had with this pharmaceutical company was to, really assess their, do a measurement program with them, which was to, assess their investment with their video buying into into connected TV. And then after that, we found that there was a number of channels and content that were working really well, and so we were able to help them optimize to those types of placements to have better ROI. We also found that they were working where they were running on environments that were, I'd say, lesser quality, that they didn't want to run on. Maybe the specific type of content that they didn't feel was suitable, or they were running their advertising on user generated content, or maybe even environments that were like screensavers or things along those lines. And so what we've done is, like, if they're going to make this type of investment, our help to them was to essentially, at first make sure that they are cleaning up and understanding the quality of the media investment that they're making. And then reduce that to only focus on the premium environments that are performing well for them. And so, like, in terms of the case study, we found that nearly 10% of their media was essentially running on less desirable environments. And when you add that up to when you add that up in terms of video and television media investment, it adds up to a lot of money. So it actually helped them understand and have more confidence to invest in this new environment, because you got to remember that connected TV is, up and to the right, whereas linear is kind of flat, or, we're trying to figure out the eyeballs and where they're going. So they needed more confidence to invest in this, in this type of environment. And our solutions help them understand, the intricacies of it, but ultimately gave them more confidence to invest and really capture where their audiences are going. And so, so that's kind of how that's one, simple way of, like, how we generally work. And that, we do that work with connected television. We do that work with their digital media, when they're running on websites or mobile apps and things of that nature. So it's a similar program to how we work across the, our customer base.
Okay. So tell me about the perils. What's the disappointing experiences, the outcomes that potential clients will have to face if they do not implement a solution like yours?
It's a very good question, Ted. Going back to what we were talking about earlier about how the industry is changing with signal deprecation and advertisers trying to figure out how their advertising could be more addressable and things of that nature. One of the challenges that advertisers will have if they don't start looking at solutions like us is they're going to lose visibility. And if they start to lose visibility, they'll start to lose, the ability to attribute performance of their media. And now, some advertisers may say, fine, I just want to work with like maybe one or two media entities. But for the larger advertisers that are, that spend globally across, thousands of
Hmm.
websites and social environments and things of that nature, one of the challenges that, they will have if advertisers don't work with us is, loss of addressability
Hmm.
and loss of understanding of the environment, and frankly they're going to miss reaching their audiences. And you know there's with the news that Google has announced about the removal of cookies in the Chrome browser happening at the
Hmm.
end of next year, we already see now that a lot of the advertising market still weights the environments that have cookies, and it's a little bit shocking to me when we do these studies and do these projects with our advertisers, because some of these advertisers are completely ignoring um, audiences that are on browsers like Safari. So
Hmm.
when you ask about the perils, like, you know advertisers that aren't taking measures to work with companies like ours may be only reaching, a small percentage of their potential audience,
Right.
alienating, a larger percentage. Now, that being said, they may still, there's enough cookies going around that, they may still have a lot of success, but in the new world, it's going to be different. And so we do a lot of work at the moment with forward leaning, advertising agencies and marketers, because we live in this great world right now that you have the best of both worlds. You have
Yeah.
companies like ours that are building up and building, contextual and suitability signals. And then you also have your legacy signals like cookies and stuff that matter. So there's a lot of work that you can do to understand what works and what doesn't. And I I spend a lot of time working with our customers to make sure that they understand this and take measures to start learning, because
Hmm.
if you wait too long, then you're going to have to learn really fast, and you may not be learning with the right information.
Right. 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 So, what are the implications of technology? I mean, everybody's talking about AI right now. What
Yeah.
do you see your solution evolving into the future? New markets, new projects, just technology's impact on what you're doing.
Yeah, the AI is obviously an area that a lot of people are looking into. As it relates specifically for Peer, we've been using advances in machine learning, well over 10 years ago. And one of the things that is really interesting is that when you're doing things like contextual targeting or understanding the environments using our technology, you're using AI on basically every ad that you're delivering, to understand the environment and the content and the sentiment and things of that nature. There's definitely going to be more advancements as we look at things, and I think across the advertising industry, um, it's still very, very early, but there's been a lot of discussion around how AI can help with the development of ad creatives or of workflow solutions that can help with automation and things of that nature. And so I expect that our infrastructure in our solutions will start to deploy more advancements using artificial intelligence,
Hmm.
um, in those in the areas of one, internally, like how can the business be optimized,
Yeah.
but then externally, how does the combination of new AI use cases and the data that we have help inform advertising investment and performance, or other use cases. So
Yeah.
Ted, it's really early in that aspect of like the new generative AI solutions, but we've been using advancements in machine
Yeah.
learning and so forth for years, just to
Yeah.
have as our core base. And we had to build that, because the way that the advertising ecosystem works is, you had to have remarkable speed to capture and understand environments and content signals and things of that nature. So, I think there's still a lot to learn, to go back to the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah. One last question is,
Sure.
Implementing new solutions and new technology is not easy. So how do you onboard a client to help them get your solution implemented in their everyday use?
I don't think it's hard if you are solving the right problem. I think that's an important piece.
Yes.
Because if you're out there with a technology or service that's trying to find a home, it's hard. And you're going to have to convince, you're going to have to do a lot of convincing. Now, if you have a solution that solves a problem, like, for example, like what we talked about with that case study in CTV, was understanding the contextual environment so that, they made sure that their investments were going to the right places and so forth, or the adjustability is a problem, and, our contextual data sets can help solve that problem. If you're specific enough and you're humble enough to work with a customer and be curious about their problems and their timing, the implementation should be fairly straightforward. Now, that being said, technically, you have to design the company so that onboarding customers are as easy as possible, because the last thing you want to know is the last thing you want to deal with is, hey, we got this, somebody really wants to work with you, but like we couldn't get it off the ground and it was so hard and it cost so much money and things of that nature. And a lot of enterprise technologies, have that problem because it's, and they face like long sales cycles, and they have to spend a lot of money on marketing and sales and customer success and things of that nature. We've designed our company, to solve very specific problems, whether it's media quality or advertising targeting or things like brand safety and suitability. And we've built partnerships with platforms that these advertisers use so that it lives right within them. So we make it super easy, so no one needs to sign a contract with us because it's all handled, within their platform, and they can use us, to spend a penny or $1 million, and it's, there's no differences of arrangements or contracting or things of that nature. So Peer39 is a little bit unique in that regard because we've designed the implementation to be super, super easy. And it's one of the things that I, personally really excited about, with the company. Other enterprise technologies, you're trying to find the budget, you're trying to find, who can implement it. And if you're so new, the implementation could be super hard because your customer may not have people that understand how to implement it. It may not be a problem that they understand yet. So we try very hard to stay very close to the problems and inch our way into innovation so that when people are working with us and implementing, that we keep it really easy and really close to what they're doing with us, so that, we look back over a year and we look at what we're doing with the customer and we say, look at what we used to do and look at what we have done, and you can see these steps. So for Peer39, it's a little bit, I think it's a little bit different than other enterprise technology companies.
Okay. Any shout outs, any last parting thoughts or comments, new product development, any announcements, anything like that you want to?
Yeah, we have some really exciting stuff coming up. We have a ton of great products. I was just with my staff yesterday going through all the great, all the things that we're launching. And then we're looking at each other like, it's summer. People are on vacation. Maybe, we should, think about when we're launching all this. But, in the coming months, once people get back from vacations, we've been doing a lot of testing with, a suite of analytics that are bringing a number of new insights for how advertisers can understand, their the quality of their investment, whether it's contextual, whether it's safety, And one of the things that we're probably most excited about is our work in the connected television space, just because of how important it is. And so, in the coming months, we have a number of great advancements on the types of controls and insight solutions that can help people transparently understand where they're running and optimize their media to areas that are more in line with their brand and performance. And so the whole analytics suite is something that we think is going to be really, really important for the industry, especially given that signals are starting to be deprecated with the likes of Google and so forth. So those are areas that we're super excited about. And like I said, it's a problem. So we're super excited to help. Right.
Right. Well, you can tell that you're very passionate about the business and the solutions and the technology behind what's happening. So I think you'll see an awful lot of success in the future.
Well, thanks, Ted.
It's been very nice talking with you, and I want to thank you for being on the Implementors podcast today.
Well, thanks, Ted. I wish you the best with the podcast. I had a great time, and best of luck with it. And we'll hopefully come back in a year and I can talk to you about all the other new stuff that we're doing.
I look forward to that.
All right, Ted. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Are you an implementer who wants to share your stories and insights on our podcast? If so, reach out to us at studio@implementors.io. Hi, Ted Wolf here. I want to thank you for joining us for this Implementors video. The Implementors podcast is presented by Guidewise, where we, along with our vetted member community, recognize that ideas are easy, but implementation is hard. To learn more about getting things done with Guidewise, please visit us at guidewise.io. And to conquer your implementation struggles, please like and share this video and subscribe to our channel. Happy implementing.